Hello learners, welcome to this presentation on financial management. I am Manorma Tripathi, working as a librarian at Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. So what is financial management? Financial management is the study of the principles and practices involved in financial operations of an institution, industry or state. It is about strategic planning, organizing, directing and controlling funds in an organization. Learners, as we know very well, that funds are very important for running an organization effectively. An organization cannot function properly for want of funds. So funds have to be managed properly, have to be managed in a judicious manner, and this is what is financial management all about. Finance function is the task of providing funds needed for the enterprise, that is procurement of funds and their effective utilization. It deals with the problems and procedures of acquiring, distributing and effectively utilizing funds, balancing of revenues and expenditure and accounting of entire transaction for better control and evaluation. That means financial management, it deals with the problems and procedures which are involved, which are there in acquiring, distributing and utilizing funds, because there are certain procedures which have to be followed for acquiring funds. Then funds have to be distributed effectively, funds have to be utilized effectively. And then there has to be a balance between revenues and expenditure. And then all the transactions, how the money has been spent, all the transactions have to be properly maintained, controlled and evaluated. Then there are certain components of financial management, and these components are financial planning, forecasting of receipts and disbursement, realization of funds and revenues, allocation of funds, utilization of funds, financial accounting and financial control, financial auditing. That means, what are these components about? These components are about planning. That means planning has to be done, that how budget will be spent across different heads, across different activities. Funds have to be properly allocated to different activities, to different heads. And then funds have to be utilized, and then proper details, how the funds has been utilized, proper details have to be maintained. Because whatever funds are procured by any organization, or for example if funds are procured by library, then a library has to maintain proper details of how the funds were spent. And then auditing is done, checking, it's evaluated there are experts from government, from ministries who visit library to see the accounts, to ensure that the funds which were allocated were spent properly, and properly receipts and every record was maintained. So this is done in auditing. Before library spends money, it has to take approvals. Then auditing also sees, it also ensures that proper approvals were taken, money was spent within allocated amount, then money was spent within the allocated time frame. All these are important components which are included in financial management. The task of finding money, investing funds, managing property and getting the sanction for the budget and all other related matters of finance are the responsibility of the central executive authority of the public library system, or the parent organization to which a particular type of library belongs. Then library has a major role or major share of responsibility in estimating its own financial requirements, preparing a budget for its functions, activities, and programs, managing the funds received and spending within the specified period, maintaining accounts, and finally preparing a report. There are certain principles of financial management. Effective control. Financial management can work efficiently only when it is controlled properly. Control is also necessary for the economical use and channelization of resources so that there is little wastage and the limited financial resources are put to maximum use. The next one is simplicity. Procedures for financial management should be simple and easy to understand and operate. Simplicity results in efficiency and economy. Then regularity and farsightedness. Financial management programs should have a typical timetable so as to acquaint everybody with what he or she is expected to do at a particular point of time. For example, in the preparation of the budget for a library, input should come from heads of sections who would in turn expect cooperation from their staff. The preparation of budget would be time bound and submitted to the authorities on time so that budgetary sanctions could be obtained in time to operate. For example, in a library procures journals, and journals are generally they are procured in a calendar wise. For example, if we want to procure journals for 2022, then we have to place order in December 2021 itself, and for that we have to prepare a budget for what amount we will be requiring for purchasing newspapers, magazines and journals. Then we have to prepare budget, and then we have to submit our request to the authorities that we require this kind of budget for procuring newspapers, magazines and journals, because it has to be time bound, and our financial year starts from 1st of April and ends on 31st March. So this is the financial year, and everything funds are allocated, funds are granted according to financial year. So this aspect has to be taken into consideration while budget is being planned, while expenditure is being planned, while subscription is being planned in a library. And it's also very important because when approvals are taken, then library staff has to be very careful. That means approval has to be taken timely, then orders have to be placed timely, then subscription will start, because when funds are released, then funds have to be spent. Funds granted for a particular financial year cannot be spent in the next financial year if some budget, because budget lapses when the year ends. So proper approvals, timely order, all these things have to be taken into consideration. Similarly, since payment towards subscription to current journals should be sent to publishers during a particular time of the year, the required funds should be readily available by that time. Sticking to a timetable facilitates advanced thinking and preparation. Then economy. All precautions should be taken to avoid unnecessary expenditure and wasteful use of scarce finances. For example, in a library, if we are taking print journals and online journals, then we should ensure that we should study, we should evaluate which is cheaper one. In case we find print is cheaper, then we should go for it. In case we find that online version is a little expensive, but then it helps the users, they can access, the students can access them while they are away from university, while they are at home. So all these different aspects should be considered, should be evaluated in order to avoid unnecessary expenditure. Then flexibility. Financial management should keep in mind the virtues of flexibility, elasticity, so as to adjust itself according to circumstances. Only then it can be successful in times of emergency and crisis. But this does not mean that one should take undue advantage of this flexible nature. There are provisions and practices in utilizing or diverting funds appropriated for a certain item of expenditure to the purchase of other items like books or equipment. But this flexibility should be within the framework of financial rules and procedures. So flexibility over here, it means that if a library has got funds under different heads, and at the end of the financial year it realizes that there is fund in one head and there is no fund in another head. So if library feels there is a need to transfer funds from one head to another, library cannot do it on its own. So it has to seek proper permission, proper approvals from the authorities for getting the funds transferred from one head to another in order to utilize the funds properly and acquire things accordingly. So flexibility means there should be provision for transferring funds from one head to another, but these things should be done by ensuring that all rules and procedures are followed, because rules are very important. While the discussed principles, the principles which we have discussed just now, are useful in operating and managing finances in libraries, there are certain statutory financial rules and procedures laid down by the executive authorities, and therefore libraries have no option but to follow such financial rules. So it's very important for libraries to follow all the financial rules, because all the government money or the allocated money or the allocated funds or the allocated budget, all these funds and budget, these have to be spent within the boundaries of financial rules. Libraries have to take proper approvals, proper follow all rules for spending for money. Libraries are generally not independent entities, and hence financial management and accounting systems of libraries are usually part of larger organization. Financial responsibilities usually rest with head of the library or accounts division of the organization. And as we all know, libraries have to follow General Financial Rules 2017. So we should know about these GFR rules. They need to be followed very religiously in any activity related to procurement which is done in library. GFR are Government of India, Ministry of Finance, Department of Expenditure rules, and all librarians, all library staff should be aware of these GFR rules. Financial management in service oriented and not for profit organization. Money management in service oriented and not for profit organizations involves systematic planning, getting funds, judicious spending of funds, and meticulous accounting. So in fact, libraries are not for profit organizations, and so whenever libraries get funds or whenever they have to procure funds, proper systematic planning has to be done. Why do we need funds? How will we get funds? Why do we need funds for different activities, for procuring, for extending different services? And then whatever funds libraries get, funds have to be spent in a very judicious manner. And then proper recording, proper accounting has to be done for whatever funds are spent. So now what are the main sources of funding or finance for any library? The main source of finance for any library is regular grants from parent body or national state government, some percentage of budget or public fund raised through taxes. Then local library cess and support from municipal and other provincial authorities is also there. Then ad hoc grants from other departments, institutions, private national agencies, endowments, charitable institutions, and certain foreign or international support. That means Ad hoc grants are ad hoc in nature, they are not regularly given, or they are not regularly received. Then libraries also get funds through fines and miscellaneous sources. For example, some libraries impose fines on late return of books as well as for loss or misuse of library cards and books. But learners must know that income from this source is very small, is very meager. In fact, it cannot be considered as a source of income, because the aim of fine is not to raise revenue, but to compel the users to return the borrowed book in time. And it's also important for the learners to know that libraries may not have authority to reappropriate amount collected as fine or overdue charges for other purposes. Then libraries can also self-generate funds. Libraries usually render their services on a non-profit basis, but charging for library services is a fairly recent phenomenon. Fees, subscriptions, sale of service and miscellaneous revenue earned by library are ad hoc, non-recurring and often meant for specific purposes with restrictions on reallocation and use. It's important for learners to know that normally such limited funds are added to the general fund of the parent organization for allocation through normal budgeting procedure, because funds generated through these means do not come back to libraries, but they go to the general fund, to the pool fund of the parent organization. The real impact of fee-based services should be in the areas of new services, increased use of a particular service, and change need among users provide clue for new services. Introducing new services involves setup cost, but services far outweigh the risk, as such new services not only generate revenue but also provide many intangible benefits like enhanced public relations and boosting library image. Hence, the primary motive of fee-based new services should not be generating profit or fun, but gaining these intangible benefits. Then libraries also gets gifts and donations. Apart from grants from government, donation and gifts, various fund generating sources have to be tapped, and fundraising activities and campaigns have to be launched. So libraries also get gifts and donations from other organizations, sometimes individuals who are philanthropists. They also give donations and gifts. Donations and gifts may be in cash or kind. And at times, citizens are often willing to make significant contributions or significant donations to cover part or the cost of a new or remodeled library building. However, some care has to be taken in handling gifts and donations. Then how do university libraries receive funds? University libraries receive their regular funds from respective universities and special grants from both University Grants Commission and state governments. The UGC grants are mainly recurring grants, whereas the state government grants may be recurring or non-recurring grants. However, government grants are not given to the libraries directly, but governments gives grants to the university, and then the university allots to the library the necessary share out of the same. The University Grants Commission grants are mainly of three types. That means UGC extends three kinds of grants: recurring, non-recurring and ad hoc. Now, how do college libraries get grants? A question often asked is, how much does it cost each year to run a good library? The amount will vary from college to college depending on the nature of the curriculum, the quantity and the quality of services expected, and the quality of the present collection. The total student strength in a college is another criterion to be taken into consideration while allotting funds for college library. But the problems of financing a library of an established college are different from those of a new college. The needs of the former are confined to acquiring materials to remedy weaknesses and to keep the collection up to date, whereas the latter must build up a complete basic collection. So there are three main sources of funds for college library. The principal source is the allocation from the current operating funds of the college. Whether the college is public, government or privately controlled matters less in this connection than the amount of additional money the library may need during any one budgetary year. Occasionally, some portion of the contingency grant of the college is made available to the library by the principal. A second source of income for college libraries is grants, individual gifts and endowments. A large number of college libraries throughout the country receive grants from the University Grants Commission. Other sources of income for college libraries are subscription, membership fee charged from the students, and annual recurring and non-recurring grants from state governments or government bodies. Then what about sources of finance for school libraries? Promoting good library services in schools depends very much on finance. In case of primary schools, lower fee rates for library services can be fixed as there will be less expensive books needed for students of lower classes. It is necessary that the entire library fee collected from students should be spent exclusively on books and equipment. At present, right now, there are no fixed norms for the provision of finances to school libraries. Then what about public libraries? Public libraries need to tap all possible sources like cultural associations, private foundations, commercial firms, philanthropists, trade unions, publishers, associations, either directly from such institutions or working in cooperation with fundraising associations. A strategic plan with well-articulated mission of the library to match the donor's needs or the community requirements has to be developed for the purpose. And for public libraries, we know that Raja Ram Mohan Roy Library Foundation also provides grants. Sometimes public libraries also get funds from abroad regional organizations, bilateral aids, as well as national and international organizations like UN may extend funds. As you can see on the screen, it's Raja Ram Mohan Roy Library Foundation, Ministry of Culture, Government of India. It provides funds and grants to public libraries. Then public libraries may also generate funds from fee-based services, particularly charging for non-traditional news services like trend and travel reports, computer printouts, reference services, extension classes, training programs, internet-based information services on health, travel, education, and public libraries can also organize exhibitions and charge from the visitors. Then there are implications of ICT developments too in e-procurements and in procuring e-documents. More and more libraries are becoming digital, at least hybrid in terms of their collection. In fact, acquiring, creating or subscribing to digital collections has changed, and even the collection building activities of the libraries have changed. The outright purchase of e-document is only a minor part of acquisition of e-documents. Large part of digital collection is not owned. It's important. Due to ICT developments, libraries are doing e-procurement and are procuring e-documents. Then it's also important to know that libraries are going hybrid. That means they have online collection as well as they have physical collection. In physical collection, when libraries have physical collection, that means they own the physical copies of journals and books. But in online collection, libraries do not own any kind of content, but they simply have access to the online contents. Allocation of reading material budget among different subjects, it's very important that while we are developing e-collections, and while we are allocating budget, we have to ensure that budget is allocated to different heads or to different subject collections appropriately, judiciously. The unconfirmed prices and unexpected increase in prices of reading material further complicates the fiscal management. Then inconsistent conversion rates are applied by manipulating the date of billing. Increased postage also adds to this problem. So viewers, we have seen the relevance, the importance of financial management, what are the different components of financial management, what are the different principles of financial management, and then we have also seen in this presentation about the different sources of finance for libraries, whether they are university libraries or college libraries or school libraries. So I hope you have benefited from this presentation. Thank you very much for watching.